Okay, now assume that the significance level is alpha is 0.1. Use the given information to find the critical value or values. The test statistic of z is negative 1.7 is obtained when testing the claim that p is equal to 1 over 5. Okay, so we're going to start off with writing what the claim is. So claim is p is equal to 1 over 5. The opposite of that, p is not equal to 1 over 5, which means h sub 0 will be p is equal to 1 over 5, and h sub 1 will be p is not equal to 1 over 5. Okay, so our original claim is the null hypothesis. So here's our claim. Okay, state alpha. Well, alpha is 0.1. Calculate the test statistic. Well, they gave that to us. That is negative 1.7. We're finding critical values. So this is going to be the traditional method. Okay, and we are also in, if we look at h sub 1, because that's a not equal to symbol, we are in a two-tailed test. So here and here. So we would have a test statistic of 1.7 and negative 1.7. Okay, now we need to find our critical values. So this alpha is in two tails, over here and over here somewhere. So I don't need to multiply my alpha times 2 if I'm in a two-tailed test already. All I need to do is go back to that important information chart. Okay, so alpha is in two tails. I need 0.1, so my critical value is going to be 1.645. And since I'm in a two-tailed test, I will have two critical values. Okay, so 1.645, that would be about here and about here. Okay, so this would be 1.645 for this one. And this one would be negative 1.645. Okay, so these right here, these are my critical values. These are my test statistics. Now, when you're in the traditional method, if the test statistic falls within the critical region, reject h sub 0. Okay, so we're in for a two-tailed test. Here's our critical value, which means all of this would be our critical region. So that means that all of this over here or we could do it in red since I call it the danger zone. Okay, so all of this over here would be our critical region. So since our test statistic has fallen within, our test statistic is 1.7 and negative 1.7. Since it has fallen in the critical region, I need to reject h sub 0. Okay, well, I'm rejecting h sub 0, and the claim is h sub 0, which means I'm really rejecting the claim, or you could come down here. Say, okay, I'm rejecting h sub 0. The claim is h sub 0. So that would be there is not sufficient evidence to support this claim. So there is not sufficient evidence to support the claim that P is equal to 1 over 5. And that is your final answer for that. Actually, what they were looking for is the critical values. Your final answer for this question right here, your critical values are 1.645 and negative 1.645. That was what the question was looking for, but we went ahead and looked at step 7 and step 8. Okay, so let's look at this one. Assume the significance level of alpha is 0.05 is used. Use the given information to find the critical values. The test statistic of t is equal to 3.030 is obtained from a sample size of 43 when testing a claim that mu is greater than 69.5. Up until now, all we've been using is proportion. This time we're looking at the mean. So it would be the same steps. So we would have claim. Mu is greater than 69.5. The opposite of our claim. Mu is less than or equal to 69.5. H sub 0 always gets the equal sign. H sub 1 never gets the equal sign. Okay, our original claim falls with H sub 1 this time. Okay, alpha is 0.05. Our test statistic is t is equal to 3.030. Okay, they're looking for the critical value, so we're going to use the traditional method. So what I need to do is I need to find a t-value. Okay, my t-value, I need two things for that. 1, degrees of freedom, which is n minus 1, and 2, what alpha is. Okay, so n minus 1, our n is 43. So 43 minus 1 gives us 42. Our alpha is right here, 0.05. Okay, now I need to know, is this a one-tail or is it a two-tail test? So we come back to H sub 1. It's pointing to the right, so I'm in the right-tailed test. Okay, so I'm in a right-tailed test. So this is t is equal to 3.030. This is our test statistic. So this alpha right here is going to be in one tail. Okay, now I need to go back to my student t distribution. Okay, alpha in one tail. There it is right here. And I need 0.05 right here, so I'm going to be in this column. Then I need to look at my degrees of freedom and find 42. So I'm going to bring this down until we can find 42. Okay, notice I don't have a 42, I have a 45 and a 40. When you can't find the number, you always use the next lower number. So we're going to use the 40. Okay, so it looks like our critical value is going to be 1.684. 1.684. And since it's a right tail test, it's going to be positive. If it was a left tail test, it would be negative. If it was a two tail test, then it would be both positive and negative. Okay, so that would fall about here. This would be 1.684. So this is our critical value. So this is what they were looking for. So our critical value is equal to 1.684. That's the answer to this question. But we're going to keep on going to step 7 and 8. Okay, so if this is my critical value, then all this over here is my critical region. Because my test statistic of 3.030 falls within the critical region, we are going to reject H sub 0. Okay, well, we're rejecting H sub 0 which means we are not rejecting H sub 1, which was the claim. So in this case, there is sufficient evidence to support the claim that mu is greater than 69.5. That's it for that one. Assume a significance level of alpha's 0.05 and use the given information to complete parts A and B. The original claim is the proportion of male golfers is more than 0.2. The hypothesis test results in a p-value of 0.012. State a conclusion about the null hypothesis. Okay, well, my original claim is p is greater than 0.2. The opposite of that is p is less than or equal to 0.2. H sub 0 will be p is less than or equal to 0.2. H sub 1 will be p is greater than 0.2. Okay, the original claim is with H sub 1. Okay, so they gave us a p-value, so we're going to use the p-value method. So we're always going to compare the p-value to whatever alpha is. They gave us a p-value of 0.012 and an alpha of 0.05. Okay, in this case, alpha will be bigger. Okay, so since the p-value is low, the null must go. So we're going to reject H sub 0. Okay, so that's what they wanted in part A. What are we going to do with the null? We're going to keep it, or not keep it, but we're going to reject it or fail to reject. So this was part A right here. Part B, this is basically step 8, put everything back into English. Okay, so we're going to reject H sub 0. The claim was with H sub 1, so that means I'm not going to reject H sub 1 because I'm rejecting H sub 0, which means I'm not rejecting the claim. So there is sufficient evidence to support the claim and then our claim is talking about that the proportion of male golfers is more than 0.2. The claim that the proportion of male golfers is more than 0.20. And that's it.